Welcome to another edition of INN CEO Talks. Joining me today is Joshua Mann, the CEO and president of INDVR, which is listed on the Canadian Securities Exchange, or CSE, under the symbol IDVR, and on the OTC under the symbol CAAOF, and on the Frankfurt Exchange as 3YX. INDVR is an established, interesting, and integrated company that has zeroed in on aggregating, optimizing, and distributing popular cannabis products throughout North America. The company is aiming to become the premier, globally recognized house of cannabis brands. And already INDVR has an enviable client portfolio of award-winning products coupled with an extensive market footprint. For consumers, INDVR is seeking to become the definitive source of sought-after products. The company employs a tireless commitment to quality, exceptional craftsmanship, and lifestyle. What that means to consumers is quite simple. Whatever the occasion, INDVR has an inspired cannabis product tailored to meet every taste. And in addition, INDVR's management team brings expertise in operations, cultivation, and mergers and acquisitions to support the U.S. expansion plans of the company, and now the company is set to expand into the Canadian market as well. Joining me now is Joshua Mann. Joshua, welcome. You are busy, and we have a lot to talk about. So let's just start with your recent acquisition of Strainz. What does this purchase mean to the company as we move forward? Like, you're already moving forward, but what does this acquisition mean?
Yeah, so the Strainz acquisition, we've announced it. We've moved to definitive. We should be closing that in the next 30 days or so. But really, what the Strainz acquisition means is it's merging two extremely well-aligned companies. You know, with respect to INDVR, we have obviously distribution in Colorado, in Washington State, and in Oregon. And for the last, a year or so, really since I took over, we've really been focused on the Honu brand. And that has immense distribution in Washington State, being distributed currently in 363 dispensaries, and in Oregon in 350 or so dispensaries. And what the Strainz acquisition does is it brings in a very astute and strong operational team headed by Hugh Hempel, who's been in the industry for I think pretty close to a decade now, and it brings in the Bronnor facility, and that is a 25,000 square foot state of the art GMP-level manufacturing facility that can do infused products, edibles, vapes, tinctures, sort of you name it within the space. And it also aligns it with with 700 dispensaries of distribution in Colorado, and that's both on the rec and the med side.
So this also gives you then the ability to scale up as the market continues to expand, because if we take a look at penetration, especially with legalized cannabis products, we still are very early in that game. And so how important is it to be able to meet that demand as you move forward?
I think the way we directionally view it today is that, we're still in the second inning of cannabis, and especially with respect to the U.S. side of things. And as this grows, we are going to have obviously capacity to eventually manufacture and distribute products for areas and populations much larger than they're currently made for. Obviously, right now, it's a state-by-state legalization framework, and you have to manufacture and you have to distribute in that state for its entirety. Obviously, we're seeing it as eventually there will be a descheduling of cannabis at the U.S. federal level, and at that point, there will be a path forward whereby a facility such as the Bronnor facility will give us an ability to distribute and produce for sort of the entire western half of the United States, a specific edible or infused product. And I think that's where it's going to. So it was, I would say, built for the future. And at 25,000 square feet of what's called a MIP, manufacturer of infused products, that's large for Colorado, but it's not large when you take into account California and Nevada and all those markets. And that's, I think, what it was originally built for. And that's what we saw as rationale with respect to the merger, was going, how do we future-proof ourselves, and how do we also add in, not only the rec component, which has, been Honu, but Strainz has really focused on as well the wellness angle through their 7 Sacred edibles and through the Strainz tinctures, which I still think is really untapped. People still talk. It's great to think about the Canna Curious and people who want to, use the product to, enjoy themselves. But I think with respect to the wellness angle, that's really, starting to get explored more fulsomely. And Strainz really has that market, tapped and is really extracting a lot of value.
So it's a complex marketplace that you're into, and you're kind of in this unique position because you got manufacturing, you got distribution, but then you also have a variety of different sectors of the market. Of all of that, what's the most important element in this? Is it the distribution? Is it the manufacturing? Or is it the interplay of all of those?
I think you've hit it. It's really the interplay of them all. I think people have not given enough value to the distribution angle. It is a highly fragmented market. There are a lot of mom and pops still out there. There are some larger dispensary chains that have aggregated, 15 or 16 dispensaries, whether it be in Colorado or Washington State. Oregon's still highly fragmented. But when we think about it, it's distribution, number one. And I think number two is an ability to actually make your product at a profit. And that has been something that a lot have failed at in the cannabis space because of, one, compression on pricing. And the other side is it is hard to keep your COGS and all of those other input costs at a steady state where you can continually make a profit. Strainz and our basically our manufacturing facilities in Oregon and in Washington, they have all been able to weather the uncertainty around commodity input prices, being obviously raw flour and how it looks after it's extracted, and been able to make a go at this and to continually grow organically with minimal outside infused capital.
So one of the other things that I can't help but think is important to consumers is when they can recognize a brand name and say, oh yeah, I have used that product, or I've been told that this is a product that I can trust, because we're still in a new market. And for people who are venturing into this market for the first time, they're saying, okay, who do I trust? And if you become a recognized brand, does that not help you then to secure your position in the marketplace?
Yeah, I would say right now, if I was to, take an outsider's perspective looking into the market, there is no definitive brand right now in cannabis. There are brands, and people are starting to recognize them. If you go into the Pacific Northwest, people know what Honu is. They know it is a top tier, I would say top 3, depending on which region of Washington, in the edibles category. If you go into Colorado, people know the Bullet vapes, and it's the Bullet branded vapes. That was developed by Strainz and Bronnor, and it is highly distributed across the entire Colorado market. And that has taken a lot of work, but I still think the playing field's wide open, and it comes down to consistency of product. And that has been something that a lot of brands have failed with, especially as they jump between different states, because it is a completely different distribution platform and manufacturing platform in each individual state to be compliant with the US laws. So from that standpoint, having that consistency and having that ability to have a repeatable product at a different facility, that's been challenging. Where we have succeeded thus far, and where I think will continue to succeed is by doing this idea of taking an existing top tier brand in one state and then having it consistently created into a new state and then pushed out through a strong distribution channel.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've also started to move into the infused beverage market, and you've just announced a deal with BevCanna. Tell me a little bit about that.
So it's not so much on the infused beverage market, but it is using BevCanna's knowledge of the Canadian marketplace and using that to inject some of our brands. We may, over time, look at a more fulsome entry into the Canadian and international market for some of these brands. But BevCanna has, so graciously decided to help us in, securing a place for a few of our SKUs to begin with. We're probably going to launch 3 or 4 SKUs, within 2021, starting out with the Honu line, and then we will move beyond that, probably into some vapes and some other product lines, whether it be Bullet or Seven Sacred. But what BevCanna's partnership will do with us is effectively allow us to secure a place on shelves in Canadian dispensaries, starting out in a few of the larger provinces, albeit BC, Alberta, Ontario, and New Brunswick will be the first sort of 4 provinces we'll be launching in. And then from there, we'll sort of take a snapshot and then decide which other products to launch with.
Okay. So we're over time already, but I want to keep going because I want to just play off a little bit of your baseball metaphor of us being in the second inning of the cannabis industry, because we saw it surge up, and from investors, they went, "Oh my gosh, this is fantastic." Oh, no, it's not. Why now? Why get behind INDVR at this point? Because you've ridden that wave a little bit too. So investors like tuning into this program because they want to say, okay, what is it now that makes this the right time for me to get into INDVR?
Yeah, I think let's take it just one step back. There's been 2 trades. There's been the Canadian cannabis trade and there's been the U.S. cannabis trade. Yes. And the Canadian trade was the one that, rode the wave up. It has come down. The U.S. trade did follow it a little bit. But when we look at the marketplace in the U.S., it is only getting bigger. The regulations are permitting it to grow. We just had New York legalize. Florida is growing at an exponential rate. Same with Massachusetts. Colorado had their best year ever from a cannabis legal retail number, and California is only continuing to grow. When we look at it purely from population numbers, California has 40 million people. The entire population of Canada is 40 million people. But if we look at it at a more granular level, we're doubling down on Colorado with Strainz. Colorado had legal cannabis revenue of over $2 billion for a population of 5 million in 2020. It's growing. That is a massive opportunity, and we want to have a big piece of this. And I think the U.S. cannabis trade, as we're seeing with a lot of the larger MSOs or multi-state operators, it is only going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to gain momentum, and I think we've got 3 to 4 years of this before it even begins to slow down. So we're excited. We're really focused on one trade in the entire sort of sphere. It is distribution and manufacturing of edibles, infused products, vapes. We're not trying to be everything to everyone. We're trying to be hyper-focused on that one category. And I think over the next 6 months to 12 months, you're going to see some really great numbers out of us.
Well, it's a pretty exciting time right now. There's no doubt about it. Right? And when you take a look at all those factors that go into the marketplace and the way that you positioned yourself, it looks like this is a good time. I'm hoping that you'll come back and give us an update in a few months. Even though I appreciate that you might be extremely busy, it would be nice to catch up and see how things are going in a few months from now.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for taking the time to record this interview with me today.
Awesome. Thanks.